We got one. I was standing maybe 15 feet from them, watching this. 3 male chimpanzees each took an arm or a leg, and they literally started drawing and quartering this monkey. Here's a leg, it's yours. One morning I went out and found Hare and Ellington, not with anyone else. It was not uncommon that the two of them would be together all day long.
The fact that these killers can also be very peaceful, very tranquil, very cooperative. I think it just shows how complex these animals are, and really how similar they are to humans.
Bill and I were following about 8 or so of the males.
Grooming in a path, we were way out to the west.
And we heard someone scream.
David and I, kind of looked at one another and like, oh, excitement.
I briefly was thinking, why were they so upset? What's going on?
And we arrived on this scene. They actually attacked one of their own.
Brownface and Pincer and most, but not all of the Ngogo chimpanzees were attacking someone. And then I quickly realized they were attacking Grappelli and that he was in real trouble.
They beat him, kicked him.
Following the attack, which was brutal, Grappelli climbed a tree. There's no way another animal could survive that.
When I heard that Hare was the one chimp who had offered some comfort, some solicitation, some support against the attackers, that didn't surprise me at all.
He's obviously a very interesting chimp in so many different ways. One of the first to tolerate us as humans, have this kinder, gentler side to him, which is quite unusual for a male chimpanzee.
Ellington died. There was a conspicuous absence. Hare was previously a very social chimp who liked to hang around with these big groups of males. But Hare would just show up, seem to look around, look at the other chimps, as if he was looking for Ellington, but then not stay for very long and go on his way. I was getting the impression that, Hare was depressed, didn't want to hang out with other chimps, and that he was really, for a while, really searching for his longtime friend.
Then he just jumped and danced on it. And that was the end of it.
Over the course of 10 years, they had killed so many members from that neighboring community that they had reduced the coalitionary strength of that neighboring group to an extent where our chimps could simply move in and make this big land grab and expand their territory in a quite significant way.
Depression is something that is nearly impossible to describe to somebody who has never experienced it. It's like a toxic virus that infiltrates your brain and takes you prisoner. It convinces you beyond a reasonable doubt that you are worthless, undesirable, unlovable, pathetic, disgusting, completely alone, and worthy only of immediate death. Its effects may lessen or increase from day to day, but don't be fooled. Depression is a life sentence. Once it takes hold of you, it is impossible to fully recover from. The symptoms of depression can be treated, not cured. The mistake that many people make is confusing their sadness for depression. Sadness and depression are not synonymous. Sadness is an emotion. Depression is a terminal disease that eats away at you until the day you die. Some people might feel extended periods of sadness, but they are far from depressed. What you've got to understand is that nobody facing true depression can ever possibly overcome it. Anybody who is truly depressed knows that there are no patches for their sinking ship. The Pit of Despair was a device developed by psychologist Harry Harlow. After his wife died of cancer, Harlow fell into an awful depression, and much like many people suffering from the disease, he became obsessed with it. He developed the Pit of Despair as a means of engendering depression within animals, specifically rhesus monkeys. Simply put, the Pit of Despair was an isolation chamber wherein the monkeys would have no connection with the outside world or any other living creatures. Harlow tested a variety of monkeys to see how isolation would affect them differently. Some had already bonded with their mothers, while others were newborns. Additionally, the monkeys were placed in isolation for varying lengths of time, some for a month, some for 6 months, and some for a full year. The monkeys placed in the Pit of Despair for a full year were radically changed upon their release.
At first, the infant monkeys tried to climb out of the Pit of Despair, but after 2 or 3 days, they gave up and retreated to the bottom. There they remained, totally isolated, for up to a year, as Harry Harlow tried to find the point at which they became psychologically destroyed.
You could see these little monkeys suffer. You could see them give up. If you wonder what a social animal, which these animals are and we are, looks like after a year of no relationship, it's really not a pretty sight.
It seems obvious that their year of isolation spawned depression in every single one of them. They felt no desire to play or explore whatsoever, and when they were placed with other monkeys, they became the victims of bullying. Additionally, Harlow found that these monkeys were incapable of having sexual relations. Unsurprisingly, 2 of the monkeys starved themselves to death. The results get even more profound than that. Harlow wanted to study how depression would affect parenting. Because the monkeys were now incapable of sexual relations, Harlow had the female monkeys raped. Upon having children, the mothers abused and neglected them. One of the mothers held her baby down and chewed off its feet and fingers, while another simply crushed its baby's head in. But the most important takeaway from this experiment is the fact that none of the monkeys that were placed in the Pit of Despair ever recovered from their depression. Once it had infiltrated their minds, there was no escaping it. The worst part about depression for me has always been nighttime. I have faced no greater agony than lying awake in bed for hours at a time alone with my thoughts. Depression turns your thoughts into the most terrifying enemy imaginable. This is an enemy that knows all of your secrets, all of your insecurities, all of your desires, and it uses this knowledge to beat the fucking shit out of you every single day.
Scientists at Tulane University's Primate Research Center announced they have taught a gorilla that someday it will die. Nate Meredith has more in the lab report.
Thanks, Dan. In an historic first, a team of primatologists has succeeded in teaching Quigley, a western lowland gorilla, the concept of mortality and his inevitable doom. Lana Burrows and Philip Townsend are the researchers leading the project.
When we first started with Quigley, he was just a normal, happy ape, not a care in the world.
The first thing we did was we taught him patterns, like
Right.
red block, blue block, green block, over and over. Then it became a pattern of gorilla born, gorilla grow, gorilla die, over and over.
Right.
The researchers then showed Quigley photographs of dead and dying gorillas while communicating the phrases "use someday" and "no choice."
It took thousands of repetitions, but Quigley finally became cognizant of the correlation between himself and the decomposing pile of hair and flesh in the photo.
Quigley shared his feelings in a confessional after completing each exercise.
That was a great moment.
Quigley also began painting pictures like these almost every day. To make sure Quigley retains the awareness of his own demise, the team spends several hours per day reinforcing the certainty of death's arrival.
Quigley, you die. You will die soon.
The researchers say at first Quigley could only communicate rudimentary fears about his own death. But he soon moved on to expressing more complex emotions, like indifference and self-hatred. And just 2 days ago, Philip Townsend and his colleagues even witnessed what they believed to have been a panic attack in Quigley.
He was letting out these anguished cries and banging his head against the wall, and I just thought, we did it.
The Tulane scientists believe that we may be able to teach a gorilla to resort to alcoholism or even try to kill itself in as little as a decade. The scientists next plan to test whether the results with Quigley can be replicated with other species. They are in the initial stages of teaching bunny rabbits that they will all die.
You will both die.
These are thrilling times. For the lab.
A widow named Sandra Harold and her pet chimpanzee, Travis, have lived together in Stamford, Connecticut since 1995. Having raised him with her late husband since he was just days old, Sandra often referred to Travis as more of a son than a pet. They'd often bring him along to work and to shopping trips around town, and having been socialized around humans for his entire life, the Harolds maintained a growing trust in what they believed to be his extremely calm and well-trained demeanor. On the night of February 16, 2009, this notion would be thrown into a tailspin when a friend by the name of Charla Nash would visit them. At around the same time she'd arrived, Travis had gotten a hold of Sandra's car keys and left the house. Noticing that Charla was holding a Tickle Me Elmo, Travis's favorite toy, he brutally attacked her, latching his hands onto her face and pulling it apart, piece by piece. At this point, Sandra would grab a butcher knife and run out to begin stabbing him in an attempt to get him to stop. This ended up being futile though, as it only made him angrier. Since this was the case, Sandra rushed back to grab the phone. She dialed 911 and in a desperate plea, manically described the situation as it was unfolding in front of her.
Stand for 911, where's your emergency?
This is Sandy. 231 Rock Rimmon Road.
What's the
Send
problem?
the police. Send the police.
What's the problem there?
The chimp killed my friend.
What's the problem with your friend?
Oh, please.
What's the problem with your friend? I need to know.
Send the police up with a gun. With a gun. Hurry
Who
up.
has a gun?
Please hurry up. He's killing my girlfriend.
What is the problem?
He's killing my friend.
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee.
Oh, your chimpanzee is killing your friend.
He ripped her apart. Hurry up.
With a gun.
Hurry up, please.
There's someone on the way.
With guns, please. You shoot him.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey's...
He ripped her face off.
He ripped her face off?
He's trying to attack me. Please,
Okay,
hurry.
I need you to calm down a little bit. They're on the way. Can you put yourself away? I don't want the monkey attacking you.
Please, hurry up. Listen to me.
They're on the way, ma'am.
Guns. They gotta shoot him, please. Please, hurry. Please tell him. Please tell him to kill him, please.
They did, Sandra. They're shooting at him already, okay?
But he's not dead.
I know. They will continue until he's dead, okay? I just need you to stay on the phone with me and breathe.
He's not dead. He's not dead. He's not dead. Oh, God.
When the police arrived, Travis, after engaging with the officers, was shot numerous times, which resulted in his death. As for Carla, her face was completely ripped off, and she was immediately rushed to the hospital, where she underwent over 7 hours of surgery on her face and hands. According to medics, she lost her hands, nose, eyes, lips, mid-face bone structure, and maintained significant brain injuries. A few weeks later, it was announced that she'd be blind for life. Afterwards, she was offered the opportunity to undergo experimental transplant surgery due to the extreme nature of her injuries, and this seemed to be successful. Until later, when her body began to reject them, resulting in her undergoing even more corrective surgery. According to toxicology reports, shortly before this incident, Travis had been given a mixture of prescribed Xanax and tea in Sandra's attempt at treating his Lyme disease. This is widely believed to be the cause of his manic episode, as the drug causes paranoia and hallucinations in chimpanzees. In 2009, the Nash family would file a $50 million lawsuit against Sandra Harold. A year later, though, at age 72, Harold would pass away due to a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Because of this, the Nash family ended up reaching a settlement with Harold's estate, which was valued at about $4 million. Charla Nash is, to this day, still undergoing recovery efforts from the attack. What played out on the night of February 16th, 2009 is incredibly tragic and will undoubtedly remain in the back of her mind for the rest of her life.